Okay, so the summary is to understand the differences between the Choshen and the Ephod. What they share in common is that the Shvatim, the tribes, are engraved upon the stones. The difference is that the Ephod, the stones of the Ephod, of the apron, are on the shoulder. Are on the shoulder, and the stones of the Choshen are on the heart. The stones of the Choshen are, each Shevet gets its own separate stone, separate color, reflecting its spiritual identity, which is the same color as its degel, as its flag, as its standard. Whereas on the ephod, there's 6 on one and 6 on the other. So just 2 stones, and one kind of stone, the shoyam stone. So to understand all these distinctions, he began to explain the different avodas. And this is pointed to the fact that the ephod is worn behind the Kohen Gadol. It's open in the front and wraps him from the back. It's an apron that's open in the front. And the Choshen is on the heart. So that is 2 avodas. Achrei havaya lekechem telechu. We should follow after or behind God. That's the avodah of iskafia, which means that he hasn't transformed his heart, his taivas. He just reins them in. He doesn't have a desire for godliness. And the Choshen, which is on the heart, so that is the avodah of isapcha, of transformation of the nefesh habahamis. It's the same. Moishe says Nachash. It's a transformation of the serpent who beguiled Adam and Chava in particular. And the same Moishe, saying Kimat is Mashiach. The end, his transformation results. That's Mashiach when Ra is transformed. So that is the Inyan. That's the 2 Inyan. That explains all the Inyanim here. So what is the idea of altogether the names engraved on the stone? The Torah describes them as a zikor in their remembrance. Hashem doesn't have to remember. And even if you teach zikor to be mentioned, it doesn't have to be mentioned either. But the answer is that it's in sinas koyach, that he's wearing them, nisias, he's lifting them. So this is the sinas koyach for these 2 avodas. And in brackets he added, and this is relevant later, similar, I want you to tell me the difference. In one word, the difference between the avodah of the Choshen, the ephod, and the menorah. The menorah also, Aaron lifts up, raises up the 7 lights. So here he's also lifting up. So what's the difference? The menorah is the nefesh alikis, and this is the avodah, the nefesh habahamis. Hence the physical difference, flames and stones. The flame is a nefesh alikis, and the stone represents a nefesh habahamis that by nature doesn't want to be moved. And one stone, one physical object cannot exist in the same place as another. But you notice flame, 2 flames converge. It's the closest to Ruchnius, which is why the Neshama is called in the Neir Hashem Nishmas Adam. 2 flames actually become one. It's a different Maimer. This should be here. The 2 flames become one because in the nature of Ruchnius, Alikos, there's Achtus. And things don't compete for their space and their place. The two avonim cannot be in the same place. That's an nefesh bahamis. Each one claims his own territory and fights for it. So the menorah is the avodah of the nefesh alikis. And the choshen, the ephod, the nefesh bahamis on the two levels of iskafia and h'tשכ. The chiddush here is that for sure we need the nesinas koyach, the help from above, in the avodah of iskafia, like the Gemara says, that if the Eibishter wouldn't help a person, the Yetzer Hara would overcome him. Now, Teb explains it's a length in Tanya. But even the avodah of h'tשכ, the chayre is already achieved iskafia, and now he's holding by the high madrege. So here too, you need a nesinas koyach. It means even avodah tzaddikim need a nesinas koyach from above. V'nosa Aaron the Shmois b'nei Yisrael al liboy, to elevate him lifnei Hashem, and the avodah of h'tשכ reaches a person to not just Shem Havaya, but even higher than Shem Havaya, lifnei Shem Havaya. Right? That was a summary of his base. And that explains the other distinctions also. Why the Choshen, you told me, why the Choshen, each shevet has his own stone and his own color. Mashenk in the ephod, which is not the case of the ephod. What's the difference? Why is that? Based on the above? I have to speak loud. Looks like you're batched up. The hearing aid is still kind of, no? And explain to me also the Yud Beis Gvulei Alachsen. What does that mean? Beginning of Beis Gimel. Guys on the Zoom, you can also answer. Why there are their own separate stones, but not so on the ephod, only the Choshen.
Talking about transforming everyone's koitos to kedusha. Everybody has different. Everybody's coming from a different place and has a different avodah, so it's
different
koitos that need to be transformed. Different.
It's a different path in Avodas Hashem. Peil Mamish, what he puts on tefillin the same way. In Ma'aseh, Peil, it's uniform. But in Avodah Shebelev, there's vast differences. Vast differences with it. First of all, what the emphasis is, Ava, Yira, Simcha, etc. So therefore, when it comes to the Avodah Pnimius, each one has their Avodah, and it's very distinct from the other one. B'Shama, B'Silo, V'chulu, etc. What's Yud Beis, whereas the Avodah of Skafia, which is Pearl Mamish, that's uniform. Therefore, they don't get their separate stones. But then we asked the question yesterday, but there's still two stones. There's two Avnei Ephod. If it's all uniform, we'd expect them, all the tribes, to be engraved on one stone. So it's not in the Maimon. What did we say? It's not in the Maimon. We said that even Avodah V'Skafia, it's not exactly the same. For one person, Iskafia is in Dibur, the other one is in Achila, in food. That's his Ikka. There's different, even in Iskafia, it's not exactly the same Avodah. We're not just talking mitzvahs b'peil. That's, of course, the same. But in the Iskafia, breaking the Bahamis, which is peil mamish, that's true. But even there's differences. There's the 6 Shvatim, and then there's Shisha Nisorim, the other 6, which are lo madrege. More basic Iskafia. As we said, there's Iskafia, not level number 1, the food that's put on your plate, you eat it. Whether you like it or not, it's made for you. And then there's a high level of Iskafia, food that you like and you enjoy. You break yourself. You want to eat it and you don't eat it. You could argue that the first one is more difficult. Eating something you don't like is more difficult than not eating something you do like. Okay, each one will decide. You decide which avodah is for you. The bottom line is your wife made supper, you eat it. There was a chassid here. I could say his name. He's ever a forced name. So he's a big chassid, and his wife was actually she came from like a Misnagdisha background. But she was very frum, very, very frum, and became a chassidist very, very, very quickly, brought up wonderful children. So one night after I don't know how many times she burnt the supper, he says to her, Reizele, it's time to put away the kitchen Shulchan Aruch and take out the kitchen Shulchan Aruch. You know what that is? Yeah. I'm sure he said it very lovingly. Akoponim, yeah, so that's even in the Iskafia, there's room for differences. But at any rate, you tell me, what's the Yud Beis Gvulei Alachsen? Explained it yesterday. It's from Kabbalah, but it corresponds to the 12 tribes. And what about physically are they? Do you remember?
Edges of a cube.
Huh?
Edges of a cube.
The edges of a cube. But why are we talking about a cube, though?
6 directions.
6 directions. So 4 directions, and then up and down, and each one is a square. You put them together, you make a cube. You'll see there's 12 points where they meet. It's also bediuk, the place where they meet, the lines. It's also bediuk, reflecting the association between that mid and the other mid. The 6 directions correspond to the 6 midas, chesed down to Yesod. Shabbos is not a direction. Malchus is Nekuda Pnimius. Now, but during the week, we're going all over the place. Have to fix this, fix that. There's all avoiders. But Shabbos is the Pnimius of it all. At any rate, Malchus is not a midah per se. Malchus is being. Malchus is sovereignty, not performance. At any rate, so that's your base Gimel. That's the 13, the 12. When they went through Kriyas Yamsov, each Shevet went in its own. That's the point, because the sea is Alma Diskasia, that's the hidden Avodah, that's the Pnimius. In Avodah Pnimius, each one has their path. They went out of Mitzrayim, that was Iskafia. Didn't go out in 12 different ways, 12 different lines. They went out of Mitzrayim as one group. But that's Iskafia. But there was this hapcha, the avodah, but there's a chana to Matan Torah going into the Yamsuf. That's already very individualistic. Now you tell me why it's one stone and what that stone is. What's the stone that for the ephod? It's dafka who? Dafka what? Huh? It's Shoyhem, Oisias Moishe, and who's the Shevet? Yosef. As he says, because Yosef's taka was from Atzilus. What's the point? Atzilus, we're talking Yeskafia. What's mitamol Atzilus? We're talking the Shvotim, the Olam Esbiyah. They're struggling with the Ra, starting with Olam Abriya, which is half Oir and half Helem and so on. So what's Atzilus now? What's the final point, he said? Adarab. Oh, Iskafia, which is the big struggle. You need to draw on a very high koyach. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu Israel. That's the Ma'anim Ishtarshalos. That's a Gilev Atzilus. And that's Yosef. That's why the brothers couldn't relate to him, because they assumed he was on their Madrega, and he wasn't. He was the Madrega of the Ovis, and he was the Moishe Rabbeinu. Shoyam, Oisias Moishe, so that's where the Tzinas Koyach Veskafia comes. Okay, there were 2 orders we had to do. Did we do our order 20? We did, yeah, order 21. What do you say in the Pnim? That Shoyam is Oisias Moishe. Where does that come from? So that Yud Nun is a mefeirish on the Sefer Ma'ira. I think it's I can't remember. So he explains there, and it's brought. This is brought in the Torah. It's a pirish on the Kabbalah Sefer Ma'ira. V'shom, what does it say there? The Ma'ira is the Baal of Ma'ira wrote many svarim. This is like a Kabbalah dictionary explaining all kinds of things. So this is a mefeirish. There, Ma'ira says that Shoyam is Oisias Moishe, and he's Masbir. This mefeirish is Masbir. V'machuven yeshloimar. And this is now this is Tzemach Tzedek explaining all of that. Yeshloimar k'mishakosav al posuk suas roish ata va'aron. So the pasuk says, "Lift up." The bishop speaks to Moshe Rabbeinu, count the Yidden, you and Aaron. Shekadei lahalis neshamas Yisrael, to elevate Yidden. It says you need the Shoyam Anshe Moshe al Yedei Ata va'Aaron. You and Aaron, and who's Moshe and Aaron? Shoshvina de Malka, Shoshvina de Matrinusa. The accompanying one of the king, like by you go the attendant to the king. That's Moshe, and the attendant. Shoshvina de Matrinusa, the queen, that's Aaron. So now we get another reason. Here we get the answer why two, because one is Moishe, one is Aaron. Hagam she Moishe is Moishe. So where's Aaron here? Harinem. The pasuk says, "Who Moishe Aaron?" The Torah itself puts them together. Interestingly, who is he? He, singular. Who's the he? There's Moishe and Aaron. So the Shoyam includes Aaron. And then he says, Lahoyer, at the end of the Maimah, we're going to see more detail about the role of Aaron. Okay. Let's go further. Clear? Yeah. All is clear, friends. See, at the end there's the diak of where the Torah says Moishe and Aaron, or Aaron and then Moishe. That's what he's referring to. We'll see. So we see the connection, the end of the Maimah. Okay, he's Dalit. V'yesh lohoisif shal derech ze matzina gam binyan melchamas Amalek. So likewise the Melchama of Amalek. Yeah, this is Pasha Zocher. The Rebbe said this Maimer next week, correct? Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, Kemavo Bedrosh Zayar. Next week is the Tzava too. Kemavo Bedrosh Pasha Zocher, the success in the Maimori on Pasha Zocher as follows. It says, but it's on Mitzrayim, but you say, Etzam Aveda B'chinam Sacharayim. So when they left Mitzrayim, the Aveda there was the Aveda of Peil Mamish, the back. Shezeh Aveda, not the Pnimius. Aveda the Iskafia. That's why we said they all went out as one singular body. Yesh Loimer. Now he adds in brackets, Shezeh Mashanem Bakibarachom. It brings in Tanya. They fled Mitzrayim. And Al Rebbe asks, why did they have to run out like thieves in the night? The Egyptians were urging them, so they'll go 2 hours later, and the bread will rise. What an easy Pesach will have. The whole thing's a mice of 2 hours. So why were they running? They weren't running from the Mitzrayim. They're running because of themselves. The was in its full force and hadn't been broken yet. And the avodah that was required is iskafia because the ra is complete. When it comes to iskafia, so you got to run away from an environment that's going to draw you in. Right? They were on the 49th level of Tumah. They stayed longer. They would have sunk into the 50th. Because the whole avodah, they were not internally motivated. It was all pale mamish. That's very fragile. Shalachein hoy Amalek yochel lenagid lehem. That's why Amalek could come along when they left Mitzrayim and they're engaged in avodah viskafia. Along can come the Yetzer Hara and trip and ensnare the person. And therefore, what's the Eitzer is the Shoyam. Moshe Rabbeinu said, Yeshua said, "B'char lonu noshim," choose for us people to go and fight Amalek. And what's choose for us? So that's Anshe Moishe. The us is Anshe Moishe, connected, Makusha, to Moshe Rabbeinu. So you get in the Sinas Koyach for the Avodah Viskafia. Kol Maliel. Like we said at the end of his Gimel, Shakoyach, Avodah Viskafia, Tzarech Liyas Nimshach Makim Elim B'Yoyse. In order to win over the battle, you have to draw in a very high place outside of you. And that comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. And
The Eitzer for Lamaila Adin Kates.
Can't hear what he says. What do you say?
So the Eitzer Lamaila Adin Kate.
Yeah. Yeah. I say, just Order 22 points out that the unique connection between the Yosef and Moshe. See, Eira Torah, quote, "V'noida al pi mashakosov," and it's known, the explanation, the meaning of the pasuk, "Vayikach Moshe atzmas Yosef im." Moshe took the bones of Yosef with him. So we see the unique connection between Moshe and Yosef. Oisei, yesh lekasher. Inyan there, in my mind, is ata yotza megolas the gula. What's going on then, Toshin Chavov? Huh? Toshin Chav Zayin. Nothing to do with the Kisvei Kodesh coming out of Golas. Maybe Yosel Minkovich will know. People came out of Russia then and brought Ksavim, or that's when they started to come out then. Or people had them and were persuaded to give them to the Rebbe. So, there's quite a few. It looks like it's one bichel. It's one bichel that he's quoting from. This one bundle of manuscripts. So this Maimed, which begins with the words "Hu Moishe Aaron" that we quoted in the Ha'ora before. It appears from Tzemach Tzedek. It's from the Tzemach Tzedek, or it's something based on the Maimed Tzemach Tzedek. Given why? Because we find a similar content published already in Eira Torah. What does it say there? Shom bevai mashakosov. So explains the pasuk. Who Aaron Moshe? So in this pasuk, Aaron appears before Moshe. Asher Omalahem Hashem. Asher Avai Omalahem. Hitzius b'nei Yisrael meretz Mitzrayim. This is in the context of the census. This is Aaron and Moshe that Hashem told them, take you out of Mitzrayim. They spoke to Parei Melech Mitzrayim, who Moshe Aaron. So it starts off putting Aaron first, Aaron and Moshe, and concludes that little section of identifying their roles, basically. At the end of it is Moshe and then Aaron. Yitzhak Lavna Inyan. To understand. What's the context? Clearly. When the Pasuk speaks about going out of Mitzrayim, Ksiv, Aaron and Moshe, first Aaron, then Moshe. Right? Look at the beginning of the Pasuk. Aaron and Moshe, Shomar Hashem Lahem, Haitzi was based on Meret Mitzrayim. So first is, in the Exodus itself, it's Aaron precedes Moshe. The Eitzel Diburam, Eitzel El Paroi, by talking to Paroi, who are the spokesman of Hashem. To Paroi, who was first, Moshe Aaron, Moshe Kedem Lada. Why is that? So the Kudus Abir explains it's a Tzedek. So to achieve the Exodus, which means to take the redeemed and never shall kiss from the boundaries, from limitations, canal, as we said before, they didn't have to flee. Why? Because the evil was in its full strength. Rak magmosom v'cheftzam hoisa lotzis nafsham likis migolot sitrach. They wanted. This was their goal and desire that their godly soul nafsham likis should be taken out of sitrach. So it comes out. We asked this question yesterday. What's the point of the aliyah of the nefesh alikis per se? And we see actually it's the first avodah. The first avodah affected only the nefesh alikis. What does that mean? The first avodah has to be a longing. You're trapped, but you want to be redeemed. There's no change yet, no transformation. The avodah v'skafi hasn't begun yet. But before that, as akdoma is, you have to want. That's what Arad inspires. Die for that, for the want to unlock it. This is what every neshama wants, every yid wants. Die in his keich to Arad. This is enough for Arad to empower, to inspire, to unlock this, to stir this. Lahala, to elevate them. Ki yaduash in Yonish shel Arad hu lifail. What's Arad's inyan is to affect she'yeh nirev and niglelikus, that godliness should be revealed. That's the innate desire of every Jew, and that's the first thing. This is brought in Ayom Yom. Aaron Oisi is nira, that Aaron is the same letters as the word nira, which means appear. So V'zuyan is in his koyach lebnei Yisrael yet something in halos. So first Aaron, then Moishe, because we're talking here about the longing, the desire, the objective, as it were. I'm a yid, I got to get out of here. That's number one. That's Aaron. So that's the aliyah, the longing, the connection. The amshocha through Moishe, even in this, so Aaron then Moishe, Aaron tchila, v'yachakach Moishe. He doesn't explain what the amshocha is. The aliyah is Pashut aliyah means embracing that I'm a yid. I'm a Jew, first and foremost and fundamentally. And then that's lotzis, that's the nefesh alikis exiting from the golos of sitracha. The amshocha of Moishe, so that should then come down and affect your behavior, which sets in motion the next step. And that is so Moishe's mamshich the Inyan, mamshich the nefesh alikis should have an effect on the person in his behavior here, and that means to elevate nefesh b'hamis. So that is exclusively a higher madrega altogether. Moishe dafke. That's a Moshe Rabbeinu. When it comes to talking to Paro, engaging mamish, not just a longing, but engagement. So to engage the world iskafia successfully, you need Moshe and Aaron. Talking to Paro, we're going to break his coarseness, his arrogance. In the there is Moishe Dafka. Also, the Inyan of Aaron is also required. V'dikir is Moishe, v'rak lachri is pull is Aaron, then comes the pull of Aaron. That could be the menorah. I have to see him. I'll tell you there. Let's finish. V'inyan zeh, al derech ha'malel b'inyan al shcheshech va'efod. And this is what we're saying. That's the Choshen and the Ephod, showing Bir Nefesh Bahamis. That's all the Avodah of Nefesh Bahamis. The Leikim May Allah Saneda Shashayach Nefesh Alikis, whereas the Menorah is the pure Nefesh Alikis. Shmeshvel Avodah the Skafi and the Ephod. For the Avodah of the Skafi, the Ephod, right, the shoulder stones, Yesh Tzedek Masin Askech Miyechedes and Moishe Rabbeinu. That's why it's got to be the Shoyam stone, especially in the Sinas Koyach from Moishe Rabbeinu. Shoyam Oisius Moishe. Choser Siim HaMaimer. All right, we'll review tomorrow. And Be'ez Hashem, we'll look up Eira Torah there for more detail. Chodesh Tov.